Welcome to Busy Bride 101, wedding planning tips for the bride on the go. And I'm your host, Lisa G. McMillan, wedding and event planner at Exquisite Events and Consulting. Regardless of the size, scope, or religious affiliation, there's one constant request from my brides. The food must be delicious. No, it has to be outstanding. One of my go-to caterers is Chef Kim Lloyd, owner and operator of Celine and Company. She has over 25 years of experience in creating and serving mouth-watering cuisine for all types of events. Kim, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lisa.
Thank you so much for being here. Lately, it's been unseasonably warm. What environmental issues do you consider when serving food outdoors?
Oh, that's a really great question, especially in our location here in Western North Carolina, where we have an exponential amount of outdoor venues. We travel with, ice chests and insulated cases that can keep food both warm and cold for the appropriate amount of time. We also watch the time frame that we have the food, out of the shop before service. And we recognize that when we travel an hour, with food items that we had prepared an hour before, and then we're going to serve them 2 hours later for cocktail hour into a reception, that any leftovers really need to be discarded, because at the end of the evening, that everything's been out of temperature for what would make me feel like was an unsafe period of time. What we also do, though, is we pack up an unbelievable insulated case with a little bit of everything for the bride and groom at the beginning of the service, and have that refrigerated for them so that they get to have a taste of everything at 2 o'clock in the morning, when they're going to be able to really sit back and relax and enjoy that. We also bring burners with us off property so we can heat things to the right temperature. And we like to offer cool bites this time of year. We've been doing a lot of watermelon hors d'oeuvres. We get a fantastic imported feta cheese in that we do with watermelon and fresh mint, or we just did watermelon brushed in a ginger syrup on a little bit of a lollipop skewer with a little mint last weekend, and it was beautiful and refreshing for the clients.
What tips do you suggest offering as appetizers during the cocktail hour?
Well, I have found that a perfect formula for cocktail hour are 5 past hors d'oeuvres.
5?
That way you can have 5 so that you have something that's vegetarian, you have something that's vegan, you have something that's gluten-free, you have something that includes seafood. That's a great place to have seafood for your wedding menu and not necessarily include it as part of the dinner if that's not something that you love. And then you can have something that's kind of like a favorite. We do bison meatballs and a local craft beer barbecue sauce, or escargot stuffed mushrooms, or gator quesadillas. So you can have something a little interesting.
Hold on, Kim, did you just say gator?
Yes,
Gator?
alligator quesadillas. It's fantastic. And your guests are like, wow, what was that? They have something to talk about.
You got my attention.
Great.
Well, I'll tell you, I was looking at one of my menus that, you had worked with me on with a client, and I looked at all of these different offerings, and immediately I went back to an event where you had the bacon bar station, and that was such a hit as an appetizer. It was there, and then I turn around and it was gone. Every bit was gone.
Yeah, we want to represent the client with the cocktail hour, and it's an opportunity for them to show off their personality a little bit. So, I just kind of ask them, where do you go out to eat? What do you love to order for an appetizer when you go out to dinner? And let's see a little bit of that.
And those are great questions to help the couple as they're thinking about what do we want to serve. So that's a wonderful tip to just ask them simple questions like that. The wedding industry is constantly changing, especially since the pandemic. How do you stay abreast of the latest trends in wedding catering?
I really stick to the classics to a point, because I know that the guests are coming to a wedding to experience the bride and groom celebration of their love and life and struggle and journey to get to that point together, and bringing together their friends and family needs to feel simple and satisfying. So always keeping in mind that I want the event to flow so that the guests never feel like they're waiting too long for anything. And every time they look up, exactly what they are anticipating should come next is appearing. And then as far as like current culinary trends, I've been a chef for, oh my gosh, 30 years now. And the food part of the celebration is my passion. So I'm just watching like what's in the markets, what's in the grocery store, what new craft items are coming out in the Asheville area, and how can I incorporate those items into my menus. And then clients come to me from big cities and they tell me, we are going to this tapas restaurant that we love all the time now. I want to do a tapa inspired menu. And I'll go to that restaurant menu and find inspiration there. Or someone's coming from the Chesapeake Bay area and I'll go to restaurants in the Chesapeake Bay area's websites and read over their menus and see that everybody's doing some kind of a remoulade sauce with their crab cakes. Maybe that's something that the clients would like to see for their celebration as well. And especially I like to include cultural items. We did empanadas a couple of weeks ago from 2 different countries, Chilean empanadas and Colombian empanadas. It was so interesting to research those 2 different recipes and to think about all the women in their families who had proudly made empanadas for family gatherings, and then to serve those items to the clients that night and watch that recognition from the flavor light up in their eyes. It's really special, and they feel like they're sharing their culture with their wedding guests. Or often that's the parents, and so they feel like they're sharing that culture with their children's friends and their family who have traveled to be with them.
That's one of the reasons why I've used you so much in the past, is because you go over and beyond. You're not just picking out items just on a humbo. You are actually doing the research with the client as far as their traditions and incorporating it in the dishes. And that is so different from someone else catering the event who's just like, oh, we'll just put chicken on the menu and keep going with it. You're actually digging deeper than just, oh, these are the typical things that are offered. Here are things that really makes a connection to that couple. I think that makes a huge difference. And you said earlier, it's your passion. And that's one way it shows, is how you're preparing, even before you add in the first ingredient, how you as a chef preparing for this client.
Oh, I feel like that's our niche, really, in this market, in this robust Western North Carolina wedding market with so many qualified vendors in every category. Where we fit in is that specialty catering experience where we can really represent that client. And, at the same time, advising them back to the question about the environmental issues. I think it's great that folks love fried green tomatoes, but on a mountaintop without a fryer, that's really difficult for me to execute. And so I'm just honest with the clients. I like to under-promise and over-deliver and watch their faces light up that day and say, this is more than I expected and amazing.
When creating a dish for your brides, you may find that they would like to alter the ingredients or substitute side dishes for each entree. Would you explain how adjusting components of the menu may or may not change how you serve the dish?
I think that goes back to the logistics and the flow part, which is so important. And so that's what, I'll talk with the ladies and gentlemen about, is keeping things kind of simple and streamlined to the point that there's plenty of time to accomplish all of the celebrating that you need to get to in that 5 or 6 hour dedicated period. So I'm happy to specialize and custom create every detail at the wedding, but we'll maintain that honesty with my ability to execute it for them in whatever their location may be. I feel like I came to an understanding about 5 years ago that a wedding and a dinner party are 2 different things. And expressing that to the client helps them to understand, because we all love to have dinner parties. And, we have this vision of our house filled with friends and family and serving them things like tapas one after another, or big family style platters that everyone's sharing. But a wedding celebration has to include arrival, fellowship when people get there, the celebration of the marriage and ceremony, cocktail hour, which is often in a location where there's not places to sit down, a transfer of the guests to a dinner location, serving them dinner in a timely fashion so that they can get to the dance party part of the celebration and still have a couple of hours left for that. So I remind the clients of that during the wedding planning process, and then incorporate everything that I can from their vision of the actual food items.
Kim, that leads me to ask you the question regarding timeline and how long it takes to serve. Let me throw this scenario at you. Let's say you have 80 guests for a wedding. Cocktail hour is over and it's time for dinner. And it's 2 courses, salad and entree. How long should the couple anticipate service for dinner?
I feel like an hour for dinner is always appropriate. And there's a couple of details within that, though, to consider. Would you like to have your salads pre-plated or preset so that as the guests enter into the reception venue, the salads are waiting for them on the table? So then that hour can start kind of at that moment. And the bride and groom can still come in and be introduced and have a blessing and a thank you, but then the guests get right to the salads, which come up quickly, and we can start serving the dinner or inviting guests to the buffet. If we delay that service, if we wait until after the formalities to begin the salad service, that's a 10 to 15 minute delay in the dinner time. So just talking with the wedding planner, with the clients about what their vision is, and with each venue so that we know what works best in that space, helps us to keep that hour time frame. I also think that I have found when I have over 150 guests for a celebration and the clients want to have more of a stations or heavy hors d'oeuvre vibe, really just 45 minutes into cocktail hour, kind of opening those stations or opening the heavy hors d'oeuvre buffet, and then addressing the first table of older gentlemen that found their seats the minute the ceremony was over, and they're never going to leave those seats the rest of the evening, and saying, hey, the bride and groom wanted everyone to eat whenever they were ready. The buffet is set. Would you like to get started? And then by the time the bride and groom have finished their photographs and chatted with all of their college friends for a moment, the early birds have already had dinner, and the dinner portion for that many guests seems to go really smoothly. And Uncle Joe, who's my kind of imaginary wedding guest that I always want to consider, who has dinner at 4:30 at home, doesn't have to wait and be at table number 25 to be called at 7:30 instead. So that is, with large events, a very positive way to feed the guests without forming lines at a buffet.
What would you encourage couples to stay away from when determining their menu, and why?
There are things that I don't love to do that they certainly could find a catering company that specializes in that. I don't love to do family style dinner service. I feel like that it adds food waste because you have to have additional portions at each table of every item. And that when I look back at photographs, when I look at the reels of pictures that photographers so generously share with us, I see the faces of the guests as the food's being passed around the table, and nobody looks really smiley. Back to the dinner party, like they do at your house when they're sitting around the paella. And also, our clients spend so much, energy and time on the beautiful design effect that they have for their party. So the tables are full of beautiful design elements, and there's really not a lot of space to have those platters passed around. Now, that said, I suggest family style salads for those clients that really want to have that energy, around the table. So we do find an element that we can include that still gives them what they're looking for. And I also think that considering special dietary needs, remembering if you're having 150 guests for your wedding and you're planning it for next fall, you've got a friend who's not even dating their girlfriend that they're going to bring to that wedding next year yet. And she might be a raw food vegan, and we need to accommodate her. So allowing your caterer the space to accommodate every special dietary need, especially with larger guest counts when you can't necessarily anticipate those, is really important, serving something for everyone.
Considering your influences in your culinary journey to this point, if you could have a meal with any of your couples, who would it be and why?
I thought about this question today because I really feel like, I've been catering weddings in Asheville since 2006. That's a long time. I'm probably had 1,000 beautiful souls at least, pass through this space and been able to share their wedding experiences with them. And they've all like touched me in a place in my heart that is amazing. Sometimes I share stories about their parents who have passed or the journey they had together to get to that point. One of my favorite couples were two gentlemen when I first purchased the business and transitioned from chef to owner and operator when Celine retired. And there were two gentlemen right when same-sex marriages were being allowed in North Carolina, and they were in their 60s. And they were elegant but fun. And I thought of their journey, where they had been to get to the point that they could stand here in my event venue, that was in my space, and look at each other in front of their friends and their family and say, this is it. We've made it this far, and now we are husband, and I am recognized to be your caregiver in the hospital, receive your Social Security benefits, like to be your partner in the eyes of the law and the world. And so I think of some couples that I've seen through journeys like that, and sitting and talking with them about how was life after that? Did it change? Was it the same? I think that's really special. I've also had some couples that have represented different cultures where their family members have come in and their aunts have taught me how to make Nigerian party rice or Persian wedding rice, and how nice it would be to sit and share a meal with them, including those things that they love to cook for celebrations within their families.
Oh, that's beautiful. Kim, you offer on-site and off-site catering, and the venue itself, Celine and Company, is available in Asheville, North Carolina for individuals to have events there, regardless of the type of event that it is. But how can people get in touch with you?
They can go to our website, celineandcompany.com. They can email me at kim@celineandcompany. And they can also give us a call. We list the phone number on the website. And there's usually someone in the office that's happy to quickly answer your questions or to start the entire wedding planning process that we might continue for a couple of years before we see the party actually happen.
Wonderful. Thanks for listening to Busy Bride 101, Wedding Planning Tips for the Bride on the Go. To keep up with us and learn more tips, follow us on Instagram and on our YouTube channel at Busy Bride 101. Subscribe to get notified of new episodes and to share with your friends. Always remember, your wedding is for the two of you.